Despite her ability to foresee the future, Chloe endured endless suffering but refused to give up, clinging to the hope of buying just a little more time. As Veldora arrived at supersonic speed, he was instantly forced under her command without even a proper greeting, leaving him with no time for pride. Although he had expected gratitude for his heroic entrance, he was instead thrown straight into battle against Milim, bewildered by the injustice of it all. Meanwhile, Leon, despite his initial reluctance, obeyed Chloe's orders without question, seeing it as the duty, and perhaps the reward, of an older brother, even if they weren't related by blood. Wanting to impress her, he fought with renewed determination, inspiring Elmesia to join the fray as a support fighter. Using her ultimate skill, King of Wind, Veu, Elmesia manipulated the atmosphere to stabilize Leon's footing, allowing him to fight at peak efficiency against Feldway. Sylvia, having reflected on her past inaction when Elmesia had been endangered, resolved to act without hesitation. With this formidable trio plus Elmesia's support, the battle against Feldway showed promise. However, Veldora's situation remained dire, thrust into combat with no explanation, subjected to Chloe's strict and unyielding commands, and left with no choice but to comply. His deep-rooted trauma from dealing with terrifyingly powerful women made him utterly incapable of resisting her authority. As Chloe barked orders, ensuring he parried rather than met Milim's attacks with brute force, Veldora had no room for defiance. Chloe's tactics were calculated. Having rewound time countless times to analyze Milim's abilities, she had determined that King of Wrath, Satanael granted Milim infinite, exponentially increasing power as her anger grew. Thus, the only viable strategy was to prevent her from accumulating strength, forcing Chloe to execute her plan with precision. With no opportunity for questions, Veldora reluctantly accepted his fate, realizing that resistance was futile. In the end, he was reduced to little more than a workhorse, tirelessly obeying Chloe's every command as the battle raged on. Feldway had never been particularly skilled with a sword. While his overall power far exceeded Zalario's, their difference in pure combat ability was much narrower. At least, that had been the case before Feldway revealed his true form. Now, with his main body fully unleashed, he overwhelmed Zalario in every conceivable metric, possessing raw energy and stats several times greater. A direct confrontation was a losing battle, leaving Zalario with only one path to victory: his superior swordsmanship. From the outset, he attacked at full force, relentlessly seeking openings where none existed, determined to create them himself. Yet something felt disturbingly wrong. Despite his flawless technique, his sword was effortlessly parried, an impossibility given what he knew of Feldway. Zalario was a master of calculated combat, wielding an unembellished but brutally effective sword style capable of cleaving any opponent with a single stroke. Zalario's strong sword, though a masterpiece, was effortlessly deflected, an impossibility that unsettled him. If Feldway had won through brute force, Zalario would have understood. But instead, the battle was disrupted by precise counters. Feldway's smug remark about mastering combat through mere observation was a lie. Zalario saw through it. Then, his technique shifted. The movements were familiar, they were Leon's. Feldway's ultimate skill, King of Justice, Michael, had stolen the experiences of those under his rule. Every warrior's technique, every hard-earned skill, now belonged to him. Zalario's own mastery had been taken without effort. Rage consumed him. He launched a final, desperate attack, only to be effortlessly countered. Feldway not only copied his swordsmanship but perfected it, proving his absolute superiority. To Feldway, skill was nothing more than a tool to be acquired, devoid of meaning or struggle. He dismissed perseverance as inefficiency, failing to understand why warriors like Zalario fought with conviction. But as Zalario realized, this battle was already lost. Feldway was merely toying with him, his victory inevitable. Just then, Leon and the others arrived as reinforcements, forcing Zalario to consider whether to reveal the truth. If Feldway's words were genuine, their fight was hopeless, and buying time was only possible because of Feldway's sheer indifference. However, instinct told him that Feldway was hiding something. He was right. One of Feldway's primary goals was to extract the dragon factor from Veldora, but the current conditions made it impossible. Engaging Veldora directly risked losing control over Milim, whose overwhelming power remained unstable. Despite his vast strength, Feldway had to carefully balance his actions, continuously reinforcing his hold over Milim while ensuring his enemies fell into despair. His outward composure was an illusion, a psychological tactic meant to crush any hope of resistance. Yet, Zalario refused to falter. This persistence, once an admirable trait in Feldway's eyes, had now become a nuisance. Feldway recognized that even though Leon and Elmesia were weaker, they couldn't be ignored. A well-placed attack, while incapable of truly harming him, could still disrupt his focus, and that was a risk he couldn't afford. The true key to his plan lay in the destruction of the sacred tree. Though he possessed overwhelming strength, even he couldn't obliterate it alone. Only Milim's Drago Nova had the power to achieve that. And without the sacred tree's fall, the Heaven Tower in Damargania would also remain intact. His ultimate goal was to ensure the collapse of this world, allowing the imminent descent of the Annihilation World Dragon, Ivarage, to finish what he had started. That was why controlling Milim was crucial. Failure was not an option. As the battle over the sacred tree escalated, Chloe and Veldora worked together to restrain Milim, while Zalario, alongside Leon and Elmesia, faced off against Feldway. The clash of forces intensified, and with the fate of the world hanging in the balance, the final outcome remained uncertain.